I'll direct our next one to Dan. So I've had a few discussions with you, Dan. Me and my designer listen to you. We're designing in our office. We listen to podcasts. We're constantly, feeding ourselves with, new ideas and thoughts and just listening to people. And I know you've been doing, your portfolio is large, over, 25 years, would you say, of branding? And I think something that'll be helpful for designers, just like for us. I mean, we're a shop of 9. I know your shop, you have several on your staff, 20. And so I think what's helpful for us is knowing how, and a lot of questions that maybe smaller shops might have is, what are some advice or practices that you can give to designers, that whether it's one-man shop, two-person shop, or, what would you see and you would really, the advice that you would give for designers to try to get them to that next level of just not being a sign shop or just not being a wrap shop?
Yeah, well, I think just piggybacking off the question you had for Kevin and the idea that nothing we do today we should consider to be good enough for tomorrow. So as designers, it's flattering when someone says, "Oh my God, that's the best wrap you guys have done," and you're like, "Okay, that's kind of cool for the moment," but then you're like, "Oh, I got to do better now. I got to one up that." And that constant drive to put out the best quality work and the best execution of that is something that we really strive for in everything that we do. So as designers, I think the best thing that you can do is to really just study the craft, to study, I'm on the commercial side, so it's a little bit different, but on the commercial side, it's really, really important for you to know your responsibility, and we look at design as if lives are at stake, and that's really how we internally speak to our own customers and our own staff. So our staff really believes and knows the impact of our work. They are reminded of it on a daily basis, whether it's a text from a client saying, "Hey, we just grew from 1 million to 2 million," or "We were able to hire so many more people." So the responsibility of the designer is significant. And I think if more people understood how critical that responsibility was, when a business comes to you and they're putting their trust in you, you had better know your job. You had better know how to actually execute that, because that business is dependent on that. And we've seen examples of trucks that were wrapped previously where the client literally got 0 phone calls from it. And then we rebrand them, and then we really change their lives with design. So invest in yourself, invest in the study of the craft, invest in studying marketing, understanding consumer psychology, consumer behavior, and knowing who you're designing for. I think it's cool when, guys like the panel up here comment and say, "Hey, that's a really cool wrap." But ultimately, I'm not really designing for them. I'm designing for that consumer that is going to purchase that product from that client that has hired us. So really understanding that, I think when I first started, I wanted to throw a whole bunch of crap into every design because it was super cool, and it was cool to put flames and diamond plate and crap like that. And then I realized, well, Mrs. Smith is the end user of this, and she doesn't like any of that stuff. So I have to remember who my audience is when we're designing. But read books, study the idea of billboards and how they function in that environment, understand distance legibility. All those things really are things that you really should know, because that business is placing their trust in you. And so I just would say, just reinvest in yourself and learn as much as you possibly can. And yeah, look outside the industry. It's not just wraps. Go down the supermarket aisle. I get tons of inspiration going shopping. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I love actually shopping sometimes because I pick up palettes and different color schemes and things like that. So just continue to really work and just accept the premise that nothing you're doing today, you should really think is good enough for tomorrow. Because what happens then if you get to the top and you're like, "Oh, I'm at the top of my game, I'm the best I can be." Well, if you're not continuing to go up, then ultimately you're going down. So that to me is unacceptable. So I love it when people say, "Hey, that's the best you've ever done." On one hand, like you say, like it kind of sucks because you're like, oh shit, like what am I going to do next? Like how do I do better than that? But just keep working on improving yourself and accepting that responsibility, because it's so critical for that company that is putting their trust and their confidence in you. And on the other hand too, it is something to distinguish your shop when you take that care and when you really are vested in their success.